right. Just see if I can get this set up. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm trying to use a piece of wood here. It looks somewhat level. Not really. How's that? Somewhat better. There we go. All right. Oh, wow. Well, I'm out here foraging for wood to stay warm, trying to be proactive before we get all the precipitation that's heading for New York. I'm still stuck in New York. It's been let's see, August, September, October, November. It's going on 5 months. Just found a beautiful shell. Save that for my daughter. Haven't really been able to talk about my dad. This part of my testimony. It's just been too dark and too out of reach for me. I thought I was going to talk about foraging because I was sitting here and I was just gathering this wood, and I just thought, wow, this is great, like starter fuel. And I thought I would share that, just how you want to forage and find dry, dead wood if you're out in the woods. But today I was reading in Matthew 6, and it talks about not worrying about where we're gonna get our food or clothing from. And as challenging and difficult as things have been for me, I feel the need to testify that, amazingly enough, like, he has kept me fed. When I say he, I'm referring to the Father, the Creator, the good one. You know, some of my family got offended with me once for calling my father evil. And that's a very strong thing to say. And it took quite a bit for me to say that. But, you know, I have my dad's Bible, and I see everything that he's read and circled. And it's very scary. Ripping off some of this bark here. It's very scary when someone underlines the word and even makes notes calling out what it's saying, calling out the need for discipline, calling out the need for obedience, and then not doing it. And one of the reasons this is so emotional for me is that I actually love my family. Even my stepmother, who I don't have much in common with, but I've actually known her most of my life. She was somebody that the family befriended and took in when she was going through a hard time. They used to go to a church together, and she was excommunicated, and I think my parents were excommunicated later. It was basically a cult called the Love In. And It's hard, you know. I was reading a little bit in Matthew 6, and it talks about blessed are the peacemakers. And I have tried to make peace, but also not shy away from declaring what his word says. And, you know, Messiah said that he came with a sword. And that sword is the sword of truth. Because truth separates us. Truth is like a catalyst, the great divider, because it brings an issue to a point, and people have to decide which side of that issue they want to be on, you know? And that's why it divides, because you're going to either choose the side of truth or you're going to choose the side of falsehood. And this is similar to where it says a man or a person can only serve one master. Most people, when they're serving themselves, are seeking pleasure, and most pleasure is obtained through wealth, money, riches. And so generally speaking, the word talks about serving the Father or serving money. The painful thing for me is that my family has more than enough for everybody. And I'm sitting here and I'm staying at this little seasonal cottage with no heat, cracks in the wall, no water. I have a friend that's offered to help me with laundry. We haven't had clean laundry in 4 months. And all that's unnecessary. I'm not in control here. I came here to help my dad. I came here to collect my things. I came here to receive the inheritance that my father told me was going to be mine. And unfortunately, my dad did not take care of business, and he left it in my stepmother's hands, and she has denied me what is mine. The Bible says that a righteous man leaves even his grandchildren an inheritance. And some people want to say, oh, it's a spiritual inheritance. It's not what the Father's talking. It's not what the Word talks about. Yes, there's a spiritual inheritance. That's part of the instructions we're told to teach our children all the great things that He's done. And that's something that I failed to do, because at the time of my life that I was raising children, I wasn't confident in what I believed. I mean, I had the value system that I grew up with, but I didn't see any real prevalent truth or overcoming in churches. I wasn't, I've been in synagogues. I see the same thing in synagogues that I see in churches. Broken people, often self-righteous people, who have this attitude that we're not our brother's keeper. And the crazy thing is that, people don't seem to realize in the Torah that it doesn't say the children of Israel, even my sons Israel. It says he calls us my son in the singular, banai. Banim is plural, banai is singular, and banai, he calls us banai Israel, one, my son Israel. And we're supposed to say when we raise up and when we lay down, Shama Israel Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad, He is one. And that crazy thing about that word one is it's literally the word brother doorway. And I can't believe that we ignore that as people. I can't believe that our brother Yehuda isn't showing us and pointing to the world this incredible truth that's encompassed and encapsulated right in the language. You guys are seeing the sky. I want you to see a little bit of the water back here. I had a little bit of a plant change in my day today, so I have a little bit of time here. And I'm thankful for that little bit of sun that's up there. I've got a few more minutes of that before it's kind of tucked away behind the tree line in the hills. But even in this prison that I'm in right now, with no transportation, no income, no savings to fall upon, I'm still surrounded by beauty. I mean, look at it. And my enemies are encompassed around me. But my dad, oh man, where do I even start with my dad? My dad told me one time in my life that he was pleased with me, and I was 48 or 49 years old. I just turned 51. It's so hard for me to read his Bible and see all the things that he's underlined and circled and made notes to, and just to wonder where did that translate in your life? Why were you so consumed, and what were you so consumed with that you weren't available for your family? And yeah, I know that there's probably people, I think that my children, my ex-wife might even say that about me. Even though I don't feel that that's an accurate representation of my life and the time that I did have with a family. I had a lot on my plate emotionally and mentally and otherwise, and it was not easy dealing with the circumstances that I had. I worked very hard for 10 years, didn't take a vacation. I wasn't living my life right, but I was trying to. I was trying to do it my own way. And as fathers, I believe, in an archetyped way, in a symbolic living metaphor way, are the example of the father to our children and to our women. We are to be his face on earth. He literally told Adam, he gave Adam dominion over the earth. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize about the story of the Garden of Eden, if we look carefully, we can see that there's some interesting or at least some interesting details, or an interesting detail that I think most people overlook. Adam was given dominion over the earth exclusively. He was told, after Hua or Eve was drawn out from him, they were told to be one, in the same word that's used for our Father when he's called one. To be one, and to be fruitful and multiply and take dominion of the earth. Well, when Eve was tempted by the Nakash, Hua, her real name, Hua, some people would say Chava, she said something interesting to the Nakash, or the one that's called as a serpent. When she was tempted, she said that Elohim said not to touch or eat from that tree of knowledge of good and evil. Pardon me. Well, if we go back and we examine when Adam was given these instructions, we know that Kua didn't exist. She was still within him, had not been drawn out yet. And Yahuwah Elohim did not say anything about touching that tree to Adam. So if we use discernment, we can deduce, because Kua wasn't there when those instructions were given, that her man, her head, her Elohim gave her instructions. And not only did he tell her not to eat of that tree, but he told her not to touch it. So a lot of people think that the serpent was deceiving Kua, that she could be as Yahuwah Elohim. Maybe. But I think that when we look closer into this, that there is something that is a little bit deeper underlying the surface of this situation and this account that we're given. And I think that we can perceive it from what happens before and what happens after the event. So before the event, we see that Adam was given a different set of instructions than Hua. Did Hua make up that Elohim said not to touch the tree, or did Adam tell her this and give her an additional instruction, which would have been within his jurisdiction and his domain as her headship, to guard and protect her? Because when you touch something, when you get up close to it and interact with it, it's more of a temptation than if you don't connect with it. And any man that's ever been seduced by a woman knows that. Anyone that's ever been seduced by a piece of candy or food, if you can't smell it, if you can't see it, if you can't, touch or interact with it, feel it, it's not as tempting. And so I tend to believe that Adam was actually trying to protect his woman and guard her and give her an additional boundary. And then we see afterward, after they both participate in this sin, this lawlessness, this transgression against what their Creator has spoken for them, their Elohim, what's above them, what's greater than them. So our Elohim, to a sense, is that which was above us, which is over us, our head, our authority. And El really means, in Hebrew, to be the lamad. Eloth is the chief or the teacher, the head. It represents headship. It's like picture of a head of an ox or a bull. And the lamad is the staff, like a shepherd's staff. It's authority. It's what Māsh and Aharon carried into Egypt, and what people had a staff, like as a signification of authority. You even see the Pope today carry his staff with all his pagan symbols on it. But after they were confronted with this lawlessness, there's an interesting thing that happens, and the curse that was upon man was not upon man himself, but was upon the earth, which is interesting because he was drawn out of the earth. Just like woman was drawn out of him, he was drawn out of the earth. So his curse was upon the earth, that it would not yield its strength to him, that he would have to toil and labor for its strength, its energy. Whereas woman was given a double curse, that she was given pain in childbirth, but also that she would have desire for her man, or have desire for her man. Which there's several different ways we can look at that. There's the desire in the terms of like jealous desire, and I think that women definitely have this kind of more of a sense of jealousy for their man, that they want to be possessive of their man, whereas really they're really supposed to be their man's possession. And a man is supposed to guard and protect that possession, and we're told even in the gospel, so to speak, or the writings, some of the writings, not the gospels themselves, but some of the writings that a man should lay his life down for his woman, even as Messiah did for his people, or for his body, for Israel. But this desire for her man could also be interpreted as the desire to have authority over him. And this is one of the issues that I see our nation. I've only really lived in America, so I can only speak to what I see here. But in my relationships, I've seen it. Even now, where my ex wants to dominate me, she wants to put me in jail for having hardship and not having the means to pay child support, and doesn't want to acknowledge that the imputed income, is so much higher, that I haven't made that kind of money that I used to make when I was back in my industry and before the 2008 economic collapse and then COVID. I was in a very, very niche real estate development industry that was focused on retail and hospitality that was really changed dramatically in 2008, 2009, and then again even more so after COVID. And I've tried to find other means to support myself. Basically lost everything during COVID, and have technically been homeless for 4 years. And if someone literally wants to put me in jail and wants to present that this is something that I've just chosen, this is what I've done on purpose, that I want to live my life in a van without electricity, without water, without refrigeration, that I'm okay with not having showers but for once or twice a month, and not having a way to do laundry or cook food, or that this is just something I'd rather live this way than to pay child support, regardless of the fact that whenever I was had means, that I always paid and did even more for my children than what the minimum standard was. And so to me, this represents this attitude of women where they want to be over their man. And I see the same thing with my mom, my stepdad, and my stepmom. My dad told me that the most stressful thing for him was to be in the same house as the woman that he called his wife. It's a power struggle, and it happens when we don't trust the Father, when we don't trust each other, when we don't have appropriate boundaries and foundations for living in our life. And where does that come from? It comes from His Word. It comes from His Spirit. It comes from the 4 pillars of creation: love, truth, justice, and righteousness. So I'm sitting here by this lake that I've spent so much time with my dad, and the sad thing is that life doesn't really feel much different with him gone. And that's really hard for me, because he was so absent from my life for the majority of my life. And as I'm estranged from my children, it gives me such pain to be estranged from them. And it's so crazy that all I really wanted in life was to be a good dad, and I chose to have a family rather than to pursue, what were my ambitions in life. And I decided that that goal, which was principally being in the military, and wanted to be a frogman because I love the water and grew up in the water, and I'm a swimmer, and I've always been an athlete, and I actually I feel fulfillment in serving. So it didn't seem like there was any greater honor than to serve and defend your country. But I knew that wouldn't be a life that would be accommodated to a family. And so when I got a scholarship for my swimming, I decided that I would get my degree, and then shortly after, a couple years after, I guess it was maybe 4 years after, is when I ultimately met the woman that I would marry and have children with, who would then later divorce me. But not having a father figure, it leaves a person, it leaves a man especially, with a loss of a sense of identity, a loss. It's just, I believe a father is supposed to encourage us, is supposed to teach us, is supposed to show us how to be a man. And in the tradition of Israel, basically children would be weaned, and they would basically be by their mother's side until about 6 years old, and then around 6 years old, the daughters would kind of follow their mothers through their daily life and learn how to be a woman, and the boys will go out and live their lives and be by their dad's side and learn how to be a man, learn how to do business, learn how to conduct themselves. And in our society, we ship our kids out, we separate them all day long in school, and they're learning from other people. We don't know what they're learning. We're being taught all kinds of crap and programmed by state-run education. So there's separation instead of time. And then we're quick to go out and be away from our families and go to college. And actually, I went to college near my family, so I didn't have that same extreme separation. But it's like, and then you got to run out and have your own place and take on your own responsibility and your bills, and you start out in debt. And it's just, when you look at families that do it differently, when they actually stay close to home, even live at home, get established, help their family, life is so much more fulfilling that way, at least from where I sit and see. And economically, it's better emotionally and mentally and spiritually to be around each other and to have that love and support. And I think that's one of the problems in our society, is that we're so quick to be out on our own and have our own autonomy, and to go out and have our first car, and to, compete and go out and try to, be cool and attract a woman, or some men want to attract many women. And I just see that it's a broken system, it's a broken cycle. And in my life, it's like so clear. This relationship or lack of relationship with my dad that I desperately wanted so badly, and literally put the last 4 years of my life, I tried to really be available to my dad during his cancer, so that when he said to me, come home, that I was ready to come home. And he waited and waited and waited, and when he did finally say to me, come home, I had problems getting my ID because of the blindness in my left eye. I couldn't get my driver's license renewed. I didn't have an ID. I thought I couldn't travel, and it ended up taking me almost 6 months to actually get back home once he asked me to come. And then literally within a month, almost to the date, he was gone. And we didn't have any time for closure. We didn't have any time for connection. He got sick. I got COVID, and he got COVID, and then he was hospitalized, and then he was gone. And now there's no opportunity for closure, for reconciliation, for all that I had desired to have with my dad, that I desire to have with my children also. So, if you gotta forage for wood to keep warm, find stuff that's dry and dead. And you know what? Unless you're like literally like some kind of like recon person where you're trying to stay under the radar, it's so much better to have strength in numbers. A 3-chord strand is tough to break. Check this out. So this is awesome, because look at this. This is like all the bark that over time just like naturally shredded. This is so perfect to grab for starter fuel. And it might be a little damp now being by the water, but man, look at that. It's just awesome. And it shreds. Like, this is exactly what you want. And then keep that dry. Keep that nice and dry. I've got a little electric saw, so I've got some shavings here. I'm going to try to use this sawdust with some wax or some, if I can find it. It's getting too cold now. I probably won't be able to find any pine tree sap, but you can melt wax and make little starter balls with the sawdust. But this is like perfect. This is what you want to find. So it's preparation day. I'm preparing. We've got cold weather coming in. It's even colder. It's been real low 40s waking up in the cottage. I can literally see through the wall, the cracks. This thing is definitely not winterized, and the floor gets super cold. And I have an open fireplace, so I can't damp down the heat, and I lose probably 60% of my heat up the chimney. If I dampen it down, it smokes back into the cottage, and I already have a problem with soot and ash coming into the cottage. I wake up every day wheezing. Hard to know if it's from the smoke or the cold, but anyway, I'm trying to make this a game. trying to search myself out, and one of the things that I'm really struggling with, and it's hard not to be bitter. It's hard not to be bitter when people that are supposed to love you and supposed to be there for you, people that say that they love, God, so to speak, and the Messiah, say that they believe in Messiah, even to the point where it says on their door, He lives, and then they're not willing to open their hand, where they have the ability to really, I don't need much to get back on my feet. The little amount of money that my dad said he was going to leave to me, the $10,000, would have changed my life, helped me get back on my feet, make me viable again. But I know that He's got some kind of plan, and it's a humbling experience when you're a capable person, but you feel, and when I say feel, it's not just a feeling, but there's really not much I can do in this situation. I'm really limited. I don't, unless I'm missing something. I'm somebody that's been, like all throughout my career, a fixer, somebody that figures out tough problems and challenges and negotiates and gets stuff done. And when you don't have somebody that's willing to talk to you, you can't solve a problem. And this is unfortunately like with my children, they're not even willing to talk to me. So why not? Like, if we don't talk, we can't fix something. And why wouldn't you want to fix something? That with someone that loves you, with your own flesh and blood, the person that you came from, your father or your mother, parents that are estranged, people that are estranged from their parents, it's one of the saddest things. And there's so many children and parents that are estranged from one another, and it really breaks my heart. I love seeing when a father and a mother are still together with their children. It's beautiful. So Shabbat Shalom, Shavath Shalom, if you want to say it in ancient Hebrew. And love and respect, blessings. Hope if you're watching this, if you've got something between someone, you take the time to try to make it right. Blessed are the peacemakers. We have to, in order to have redemption, we have to confess what an issue or a problem. We have to turn from it, and we need to also, if there's someone else that's been involved, we need to go to them and make it right. And that's the process of redemption. And it's really, unfortunately, limited if someone's not willing to receive us. So we can still have a partial healing in ourselves, right? We can release, but we can't really have the blessing of that relationship if someone else isn't willing to participate. And that's unfortunate, because we are designed to be blessings to one another. So I pray that you're blessed. And have a beautiful, beautiful day. May Yah shine His face upon you, bless you with His mercy and His compassion in all things.